Approval of the July 21st, 2026 agenda. Any updates as needed? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I've got one update for tonight. It is for other business item 11A, the voucher disbursement report. That report has been emailed to the council earlier today, and we have a printed copy out here tonight if anyone wants to view it. But we're just adding that actual report to the item for tonight's meeting, and that's my only update.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no or nay. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. Any updates or do we have the motion to approve? Council, sorry. Rewind. Council, anything you want to change or add in addition to tonight's consent agenda? No.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through D.
And I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no or nay. All right. Consent agenda approved.
You want to let people know what was
Yes, I will. Oh, thank you. All right. So what do we approve tonight? So we approved the city council meeting minutes from July 7, 2026, some investment reports, as well as approval of licenses. And then we accepted a quote for the sidewalk replacement, otherwise known as Project 39926. It's very quick. That's a small one. All right. Moving on to presentations for this evening. And we have a presentation from Hennepin County Commissioner Lundy.
Just to test. First of all, thank you for allowing me to present tonight to give an update. I'll try to be entertaining, informative, and brief, but I can only do one of those three things, so I'll go for entertainment. But first, I want to thank your staff for setting things up and allowing me to come present. And so, as always, I always lead every slide with my team, because that team works for yourselves. Anybody on this list is available. It's not just myself, but it's also other people. So if you have needs, you have people, residents reaching out, we work as a team, so you might not be me responding, it might be others. That means you're getting a better response, but you will get a response. And so I list everybody's information on there, not just for yourselves, but anybody watching at home. This summer, we're joined by Faith Outland, who is our summer intern, will be with us through the end of December. On the right side, just my committees. I was kind of bored, so I thought I'd be chair of the hospital HCMC, because I thought, what have I got to do with my time? So we will soon, I think in January, be naming a replacement board, and so I will be relinquishing those duties. And so, but everything else is pretty consistent. A couple things, why not Blue Line, right? Of course. So, I think, talking about the investment in our community, I don't need to tell you what that means. The ability to connect things. We suffer in a transit area that is not well served. We have the people, about 50% of our people, your people, my people, are transit dependent, but yet we have less transit options. So you can tell me the logic of that. Please explain it in small words so I can understand. But at the end of the day, you'd think the people who need it the most would be getting the most service. That is not the case. And so we, with yourselves, have been advocating and continue to push forward the Blue Line extension. I was at it's our tradition to go to the Lions Grill Out during Whiz-Bang days, and so it took me 60 minutes to eat, 90 minutes to leave, because I had lots of questions on Blue Line, and so one of the people wanted me to talk about BRT, so I'll do that at the end. And but it was a good discussion, and if you're afraid of what you stand for, you have a different problem. And so I think it's good to have questions, have conversations, because every time you have a conversation, you learn something new. So a couple things I want to do is just show you some maps. And these maps are important because sometimes people wonder, why are we doing things? And I'm asking a rhetorical question, a pattern emerges, because I think you're going to see the pattern. And it happens over and over again. And it is our people, my district. So if you look at median house income, dark gold is not good gold. That is the opposite of gold. That is people who have the least amount of median value income. That means our residents typically are the people in this Hennepin County that have the most financial challenges. you're going to see a pattern. People of color, diverse. Minnesota is really good about making sure those people, and I use that word because I've been told that those people are my people, sit in an area. It's not by accident. You can talk about, go back in time to racial covenants. You can go back to redlining. You can go back to a whole bunch of things. But at the end of the day, Minnesota is really good about putting people who face financial challenges in one area. And that's our area. That's our people that we represent. Here's people who take transit. We don't have options. I can always say in Brooklyn Park, you can't get from east to west. There is now an east to west line. It goes from the library to Northtown, which to this day, I've not had a single person in my entire elected life ask me to get to Northtown. They've asked to get to Maple Grove. They've asked to get to colleges. So we have a line now that's been added that I suppose I should feel grateful for, but it doesn't serve anybody, that people who are transit dependent. Housing cost burden. These are people who cannot afford housing. They are here because we have affordable housing. They are people that suffer the burden that when housing happens, when they lose housing, there are not places in the county for people to move to. Again, I would argue not by accident. It is very purpose. The map speaks. This is nothing new. This map could have been in 2000. It's now 2025. It'll probably be close if we don't do things differently. High school education, challenges about getting that. I tell this story. Both my sons go to the U of M. They can go to Maple Grove, take an express bus from the U of M to Maple Grove and be there in 25 minutes. They can go to Blaine in 25 minutes, express bus. If you want to go to Brooklyn Park, Robbinsdale, Brooklyn Center, anybody else in the district, you are not sitting on a bus that's express in 25 minutes. You're sitting on a bus that's probably 3 or 4 changes, 70 minutes. That is not the same at any level. Why should people who have access to more get more benefits? I ask that because the same ride to get from Robbinsdale to get North Hennepin Community College is also 45 minutes. So it takes longer to get from Robbinsdale to North Hennepin than it takes to get from U of M, Minneapolis campus to Maple Grove. I'm envious, but I'm also perplexed about how a transit system is set up so that the people who need it the most have the least amount of services and options. Because you know, if you've ridden buses, if you have 4 stops, that's 3 opportunities for something to go wrong. You miss a bus, you get delayed, you have to wait for the next one. Buses don't run every 10 minutes, they run every half hour. If you miss your bus you're sitting at, and then all the other stops continue on. This one is years of potential life lost. This is where people don't have access to health care, they don't have access to things. You can actually measure the fact that people don't have access to health care and to services live less longer. They die earlier, to be blunt and to the point. And so this is an outcome of when you have a system set up that puts people into places. If you went to the rural areas, you'd find similar things because they have the challenges of the lack of access to health care, and they have the same challenges. So for this, it's very stark. Median home value, you guys will be starting your budget process. It's going to be all about the property tax value of your homes, your businesses, and how you levy your budget on top of them. And so in our area, we have lower value businesses, homes, which means that we do not spread out that budget onto others. So when you're trying to invest in police or fire or even schools, there's less value to bear that burden. So our people tend to pay higher taxes for that service because there's less to funnel around. Oh, back one. This last one is it's from the CDC. It's social vulnerability. It basically outlines if there's a COVID, if there's a financial recession, if it's things that go bad, how people who live on the edge are most vulnerable to affecting that. If you have a safe job, if you have a house that you can afford, if something bad happens, you are going to be able to survive that more than a person who's living in affordable housing where they live in a 1-bedroom in Brooklyn Park because it's affordable even though they have 6 people in their family because that's what they can afford and that's where they're at. A couple things I think is important is about the ROI blue line. There is a difference between light rail and bus rapid transit. The difference is 27. What does that number mean? Value of a property within half a mile of a light rail station will appreciate 27 times the rate that a bus rapid transit. Don't believe me? Go to Brooklyn Center. They're at the end of the D line. They don't even advertise the D line when they're trying to get businesses to invest in Brooklyn Center. Why? Because it's not a driver on where people decide to make decisions on putting buildings. It just isn't. Is it a bad thing? Absolutely not. Bus rapid transit is great. But for us, where we don't have value, tax value, property tax value, having that value that comes from the investment matters. I would also like to highlight that this city, Crystal, Brooklyn Park, Minneapolis, have made changes over time. You've taken up zoning, you've made decisions. Brooklyn Park, 2007, when I became a council member, we talked about the water line which runs down the middle of West Broadway, that we wanted to wait till light rail came so that we could rip it up all at once. And it's now 2025. If you talk to the city engineer, they're still looking at the fact that to rip that up be so cost disadvantaged that they would rather continue to wait, which means as the lines break, you're patching, you're band-aiding things through. But that's along this infrastructure. You have infrastructure that you're going to look at replacing. This things, when we all work together on infrastructure investment, it allows people to get in the ground to do things at a cheaper rate. That saves property taxes. So whether it's a light rail project, it actually saves projects that you're going to invest upon at your money at a lower rate. This is about jobs, I think, more than anything. People talk about their light rail is, again, not a jobs creator. You'll have about 4 years of jobs that will be created with a light rail versus a BRT. So BRT is not a job creator. A couple of things just on light rail. So I was asked, and I said I would, because I'm a sucker for a good conversation and argument, is comparing them. So right now, people talk about the investment in Blue Line as a $3.5 billion investment. That is your money. It's not someone else's money. It is your money. We are paying for that investment. So when people parachute in from afar, legislators come tell us how we should do things and we could just replace things with buses, think of it this way. If I go from $3.5 billion investment to a $200 million investment, are you happy? I just disinvested $3.3 billion out of your communities. I think that we should stop looking at this as a please, a may I, would you help us, to a we are paying for this. We expect the service. The tax, the county transit tax that pays for the bonds for the green and the future Blue Line are being paid right now by all of us. You are paying for the green line. So when people start to say, well, the green line, the blue line, we should do things differently for the blue line, you're paying for the more affluent communities to have that 27x multiplier to their tax property. And I believe that you and every other community deserve the same investment because you are going to be paying for the green line, like all of us. And I'd like to have the blue line added on so we can see those benefits. Another part I would also point out is the idea that council doesn't have enough money. They have money. Their operating budget from 2023 to 2026 went up 48%. Let me ask a question. Has anybody here seen 48% more transit in Robbinsdale? Every city I've asked the question to, no one has pointed out where you're getting 48%. That money is coming from the Metro Transit tax, which we all pay. About 45 to 50% of that transit tax that goes to Met Council or Metro Transit is paid by Hennepin County residents. We generate that much money compared to the rest of the metro that we pay almost half of that tax because of the activity, the population, and all the activities. So again, I come back to the fact is we shouldn't have to ask and say, may I, for something that we are owed. We are paying for the services that we are not getting. And I think it's time that we start to act like that. We should no longer sit and say, will you give us something? We are paying for something. If you go into a store and buy something with money, I expect you probably hope to walk out with that item that you bought. We are not getting the transit. We are the people most dependent on transit. And so I think that's important as well. I was asked a BRT question, so I'll deal with it. So right now there are 11 BRT projects in the queue. 2 are going to be built between 2030 to 2035. That leaves 9. If you suddenly take the LRT, our project, make it a BRT, which, oh, by the way, it's about 1/4 of a light rail, we're at the back of the queue. We're looking at 20 years, according to Met Council's own rate, of which they will get us a bus rapid transit. In that time, we will pay off the green bonds. The affluent people of Southwest thank you and me for that. But the fact is that waiting and switching this project will just mean we'll wait longer. It'll be another 20 years. You won't have to deal with me, but somebody else will have been here for the whole time trying to get that project through. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to not ask, not hope, not wish, but actually demand. We are paying for the services that we're not getting. They're going elsewhere. There is no bus rapid transit through Brooklyn Park, the biggest city in this area. We need that investment. That investment is going to help pay off in property taxes, values for schools, for safety, for police, for fire, for roads, for everything that we do as municipal or county depends on property taxes. That is just the way the system's built. Moving on to the hospital, I'm glad North Memorial's here. I want to thank them for the partnership. I'll say this, that it was through the good graces of the legislators who voted yes, both Republican and Democrats, that allowed us to get funding to save the hospital. And make no doubt about it, we were prepared to close because Hennepin County property taxes were being used to pay for our statewide asset, and we had reached the end of the ability to cover the bill. We were putting about $225 million a year into the hospital. Now we have an agreement with the state that says this is a statewide asset, and so they set up a fund, and I'm grateful to Senator Rest, Representative Freiberg, Representative Frazier, and every legislator, because it was unanimous, that allowed us for this bill to pass. And so we're grateful for their time, their effort. And so sometimes people will ask, what does it matter to our district? Because North, my sons are alumni of Robbinsdale. My son's birth certificate says Robbinsdale. Wait times, if HCMC would have closed, instead of 1 to 2 hours at North, it'd have been 8 to 10 hours. Because when you put 95,000 people from one hospital back on the market looking for emergency services, it causes everything. So it is good news for all of us. And I just want to express my gratitude to the legislators because it wasn't us that did it, it was them. Last couple, and I won't read this, but I just want to reiterate, if you have a resident who's experiencing eviction, please tell them to go to eviction court. At eviction court, Hennepin County has what's called ARS, which is Adult Representation Services, that will help negotiate between the landlord, the tenant who's going to be evicted, and the judge to find a way to save them. So we have enough money to last about 3 months of the year. We don't. We spread it out over 12 months. So we've determined it's more cost effective for us to wait till the day of eviction to negotiate. Because landlord, if they're given some money, they will take that money and we can set up a payment plan. We can do things. But if they don't go to eviction court, there's nothing available to them. So if you have anybody who calls and asks for help, certainly send them to us. I'm going to tell them the same thing. Please go to eviction court. There are people that will work with you at eviction court to try to save you. We have a good success rate, but it is the absolute right place to have them come. So please, if you have anybody who's reaching out for home, they're facing that, we have services. We have pulled back from people who are experiencing foreclosure because the money on foreclosure is too great for us to take what limited pool of money we have. When a foreclosure can be $6,000 to $8,000, a rental could be $2,000 to $3,000. So we can save more people, and so it's really a cost effectiveness. I apologize for the lack of compassion, but we don't have much choice in that. I think we covered this. We continue to invest in homelessness services. We are under pressure from the federal government who every day find a way to try to take money from us or penalize us for something that we did or didn't do. And so we continue to invest in services because we know if we can keep people off the street, keep them in housing, that's the most important thing. Last thing I just had is we did earlier this year open up the Youth Crisis Center, which is a place for kids that are not found competent, which means they're done with the justice system, but they are a danger to themselves and to others. And so the Youth Crisis Stabilization Center is a place, about 12 to 15 beds. That's a secure location that kids can go, that we can stabilize, we can ascertain what is going on in their life, what diagnosis do they really need help with, and then find the right place, rather than just try to have them stay at home and then try to find a place. So this stabilization center is in full swing. Come August 1st, any kid under 13 is that automatically cannot be taken to the JDC, which means if a 12-year-old does something violent, they cannot go to our juvenile detention center by law. And so we're going to be sharing with the police department our plans so that if a 12-year-old kid who's done something is sitting in the back of a police car, what do they do with him? You can't take him to the JDC anymore. And if the family says, I don't want him, your police officer stuck with the kid. So we've got a plan that we'll be communicating to all the police departments to at least provide options, foster homes, secure foster homes. There are certain things that we're going to do, but it will be something we will work through. But it is a wrinkle for all of us in that regards. That's all I have. So,
Well, thank you for the thorough presentation and some of the data and facts that come out of that as well. So I think it's helpful. There you go. Sorry, I turned my mic off. I think it's helpful to see numbers and just get an idea about who is being impacted. And so I think the color coding and things like that nature, I think are really helpful and beneficial to see. And then I think just redefining what it looks like for us to advocate for our dollars and advocate for where those dollars go definitely makes a difference, and I see that. Council, any questions that you might have or comments? Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, for coming and presenting. I was interested in the homelessness work that you folks are doing, and do you guys do a lot of coordination with the Interagency Council on Homelessness? Is that like one of those projects that got initiated through that office, or is that like a separate entity that's
a good question. I am not sure, but I know that we work with all agencies, whether they're city, private, charitable, that works in a kind of a continuum. So if I can owe you an answer, I believe the answer is yes, but I can't say that for sure. But our work is kind of outside of that. Is this really a county focus? But we know the best way to do it is to work with partners everywhere. So that's why I believe the answer is yes. But if I can, I'll get you the answer. Make sure.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. I really appreciate the presentation. I think you've made a really compelling data story, particularly around light rail. So I hope you get several opportunities to keep sharing that story. I also just have a question. I think after hearing about all the things that you are involved in and you do such a nice job of advocating for your community, if you could come up with a call to action for us as council members, what would be something that you would like to see in terms of our call to action in terms of advocacy or anything else?
Yep. I think right now we are working through trying to cover the gap. I know your city manager has been involved with those. Your mayor was at the meeting. And so like any good family, there's a bit of a squabble. At least the Lundy family. You can't have a get-together and not have yelling. And I find that healthy and therapeutic. But I think that we are getting to the moment where we really need to ask our legislators, Representative Freiberg at the meeting that Tim was at, question some of the interpretations of law that says they can't invest in things. And so I think, as I've talked about tonight, that money part is there. And so we continue to work with the Met Council to try to find a path. But we are 100% committed. I think we will have some information. I think there will be a need to call legislators, and they're very aware, and I think we need to have a lot of dialogue with the governor's office to start talking about this, because it is important, and it is the light rail project. And I think if I can say one thing is just, I'm not asking to be treated special or different than the people of the Green Line. I just asking to be treated the same. That's all I'm asking. Treat us with the same respect, value the people that we have in our district that you did in the Green Line when they stepped up. Sorry if I feel like I'm aiming at you, I'm not. But I think that's really the question. Does our people matter as much as the Green Line? Because in the Green Line, everyone stepped up to find that solution. And so we're asking for that same thing. We believe our people are worth just as much, not more, just as much as other people are. And we need to see that. So to your point, there will be more information coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. Appreciate all the work. I know you put a ton of effort into HCMC and just all the other things that you work on. So appreciate that. Couple things that I just was curious about with speaking about light rail and the excitement, or at least the appetite to get what we've paid for. Yep. I think like looking forward and trying to bring some vision to Robbinsdale. I know there have been some conversations about maybe moving the civic campus and some, just broader ideas. I know nothing is in stone, but I'm just wondering, as I've heard that there is some appetite to help with that and to maybe open up some opportunities for development where today there might be more of a design for a park and ride. I don't know if that's like something you're familiar. It sounds like it's a conversation you had. I'm just wondering, like, if you could speak to it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think on the question on the campus thing, the Hennepin County Railroad Authority, yes, another agency staffed by the same commissioners. We own property on that line. If the light rail goes through, we have no need for that property. It also sits between the existing transit center and your police and fire. And so I'm not saying the police and fire have advocated for a new station, so I'm not going on that limb. But suddenly you start to get pieces of land that you guys might be able to put together, which gives you options, whether it's just development or maybe it's city options. And also I think if the light rail comes, the transit center also becomes vacant and not needed. So I think there's opportunities for Robbinsdale municipal government to take advantage of that, whatever way you choose to or not choose to. And I think we believe county continues to put money into transit-oriented TOD development funds. So we have really tried to put money available so that if somebody's bringing a project forward, that you can access money to maybe get something more than what is available by using those funds. So we've not backed away from that. I think it's like everything, if you have a project, then you apply. But our thing is really to put money on the blue lines to really harness development. Okay. And I think trying to provide place for everyone.
Great. And then I guess my other question was just around, we've been talking about the merger between Sanford and North Memorial, and they're here tonight. I guess just as things have developed with HCMC, I mean, one of the things that we've talked about is just the overall safety net, that HCMC is one piece of it, North Memorial is another piece of it. They're working together. And I guess just, I know that the funding is very much appreciated and needed for HCMC, but it also means that, or even just with this merger potentially happening, it doesn't mean that North Memorial isn't going to need resources. And I guess just with your experience, how do you see that moving forward? And like, what's your take on like getting more funding for North Memorial and Robbinsdale?
I think the funding for HCMC was a stopgap to get us to this next legislative session, where the legislature as a whole could do something. Because as much as our challenge is, there's 24 hospitals in the rural areas that are on the verge of closing. It's just HCMC was a big one. But when you're talking a community that the nearest hospital is 4 hours away, the impact is just as dramatic. So I believe that the legislature is going to work on trying to set up a continuum of care where if a patient, no matter where they are in the state, that we're not trying to say, oh, go to North, or go to HCMC, or go there, or go to Lina, where we're actually going to have the patient's care become wherever they are, the state's going to have to step in and try to find out how can we do people who have uncompensated care, which means no insurance. Also uncompensated care, just for you people to know, is it can be a construction worker who's self-employed who has catastrophic care. It doesn't kick in until $25,000, which means the first $25,000 they're uncompensated, and then above $25,000 they're compensated. So you can have individuals that can be in both, be covered, but they're not covered until it's a bad thing. Yeah. So I think you're going to see this next legislature is going to have to, because we're not the only hospital that's experiencing it. I would say North Robinson, I certainly defer, has a similar patient mix to HCMC. And so I'm certainly not going to talk about their finances, but I know that their patients are similar to our patients, in that what happens is people dump patients onto other hospitals that will take people. It happens all the time. The number one transfer hospital to HCMC is actually Mercy in Coon Rapids, which doesn't seem like Alina's having the big merger, but anyway, I won't go there. But so what's happening is people look at the ability to pay, and then they transfer patients in HCMC, and I think, frankly, Robbinsdale, where they will take people, have been taking patients, and that's caused a cost burden to be concentrated, and I think that's what the legislature is going to have to tackle. So,
appreciate that, yeah. Well, thank you.
If you have any solution, please let them know.
Yeah.
But no, I think more to be done.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, I always ask, well, first and foremost, I'll ask one last question, and then after that, yeah, I'll just say appreciation for being here as well, too. And, so my only question I have really is around, like, this comes from some of the residents and what they talked about with you. Anything that really sticks with you right now that you're thinking about from conversations that you've had? We were here for Whiz Bang Days and just talking to people and gathering information from everybody as well. So, like, something that just, like, we should be aware of, or things that we, because we weren't there, but I'd be curious if there's something like, this is something that really stuck with me, or...
I think, as I'm going to guess, many of you council members have connections with nonprofits. This year is going to be difficult for nonprofits because I already know our county budget's going to be difficult, and we're already going to look at contracts and things, and we're going to be cutting back how much money we provide to nonprofits. And as you know, nonprofits do a lot of work locally, and I think you're going to feel that. We're going to feel it. You're going to see it, where people are going to have a hard time when contracts are not offered or they're more competitive. So I think what we're not seeing is that when people still need the services and there's no one there to serve them, that is going to be a challenge for us. And I think the nonprofits that are operating in your area are going to feel that. And as the federal government kind of pulls back from some of the safety net stuff they've done historically, it's leaving a void. I can say that.
Yeah.
Well, as always, thank you so much for your time and being present and being able to answer our questions. Always, just want people to know as well, too, you're always really easy to get a hold of and talk to, or somebody on your staff as well, too. So thank you for always being present and available for questions, comments, or anything else of that nature in the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Moving on to public hearings. There are none. Old business. There is none. We do have new business. Consider a resolution for proposed North Memorial Sanford Health merger.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, I will provide a brief introduction here with the understanding I'm sure Council will have some thoughts to share. As an overview, earlier in the spring, the city was made aware, like as the public, that the potential for a merger or a definitive agreement was shared out between Sanford Health and North Memorial Health. As a part of that process, both entities were kind enough to come and join us at a city council meeting here earlier in the summer. I thought a lot of good dialogue, not just presentation, but back and forth. Following city council meeting, a couple of town halls were hosted by the Attorney General's office. This is the office at the state level, of course, who reviews the definitive agreement proposal. And in taking that feedback, I know city council and the mayor, as well as some staff, were present at those. So hearing that feedback, ultimately this conversation was brought back to the work session last week. Understanding the council with respect to the complex nature and recognizing a variety of perspectives have been shared and considered for good reason, wants to share out the support. I think we've captured good language. We went through language and again in the Q&A forum with North Memorial representatives here last week at the work session to make sure that what we're putting out publicly represents the will of the council. So again, staff has this in front of you for formal adoption. What we would intend to do after passage is share with the AG's office directly and then publicly through our communications channels. But before we get to that, would encourage council to share their experiences as part of this dialogue over the last couple of months. As has been noted, there is some staff here from North Memorial. If you'd like to call them up, I'm not sure they want to do a full song and dance, but I know they're always happy to share if you have further questions, comments, or concerns.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim. Council, I guess your appetite. Would you like to share our experience first and then potentially offer up an opportunity for staff to go up and speak if they so wish to? Sure. Okay.
Sure, yeah. I can start. I definitely appreciated the back and forth dialogue that involved obviously council, but more importantly community, the forums that were held. We folks were pretty open to meeting here in Robbinsdale and North Minneapolis. Healthcare is just one of those like passionate things for me. Before I started doing all the policy work, I worked as a case manager for Minnesota Care and MNsure. So I'm pretty familiar with kind of like healthcare in general, especially, folks who are lower income that need it the most and are most vulnerable. So when this came to my email here about the merger and everything kind of going on, I was intrigued definitely because navigating like the marketplace for healthcare, tax credits that, kind of go into like what it is that you're paying a month. Like all of that just kind of came back to me, and I was like, just wanting to make sure that with this merger that, healthcare costs wouldn't, go up an exorbitant amount for residents. And I was just trying to do like the due diligence of listening, why the merger would benefit both Robbinsdale and North Memorial in general, especially given the funding struggles that it had in these past couple of years. HCMC was able to get funding. North Memorial, got off the table in the last minute here with the end of session. So I kind of knew in the back of my head something was going to happen. But overall, my experience has been great with it. Again, the forums went great, and there's good back and forth dialogue that I've appreciated. The unions have showed up, and there seems to be, we essentially need this so that North Memorial doesn't close, and that's the most important thing to me, is we don't get, one of our biggest providers, if not the biggest one here, shut down because of funding struggles. And the only thing that's concerning to me is just making sure that we keep getting funding, later on. So, and last week at the work session, you guys kind of made it clear that it's going to be a back and forth with the legislature to make sure that, healthcare is complicated, but I think it's important to kind of, make sure and keep advocating for it. And North Memorial's government relations team has done a great job of doing that. So I'm open to the dialogue as it comes. And yeah, overall, it's been a great experience. So.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thanks, Council. Yes, I would first like to extend my thanks to the North Memorial team and the Sanford Health team for their presentations, their presence, and coming forth before Council to answer questions and have a really great dialogue. So that I think those really helped to shape a lot of the questions that not only the Council was thinking about, but also the community as well. I am supportive of the resolution, and again, just want to briefly say thanks again for the willingness to answer so many questions. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I'll go.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so definitely appreciate all the engagement from the Sanford and North Memorial teams, especially the conversation last week in our work session was really helpful. And I think from my perspective, it's really about balancing the opportunities against the risks. And from the way I look at it, there are risks if we don't do anything. If there is no merger, there are some significant risks for Robbinsdale and for North Memorial. And that impacts not only our community, but the greater community around us, as well as Minnesota as a state, and healthcare in general for us. So I guess, my main concern is really similar to Councilmember Aranda, is, the longevity of the relationship and making sure that North Memorial is in Robbinsdale for the long haul. I think like some of the questions that I asked and the answers that were given address that. But just knowing that that's where my head's at, and I think a lot of our community feels that, this is in some ways a necessary thing that needs to happen to help North Memorial. But at the same time, we want to make sure that North Memorial stays part of the Robbinsdale community. And again, it's hard to guarantee anything forever, but for as long a period of time as is sustainable. And so I guess with that, yes, I definitely support the resolution, and just thank you for all the engagement and showing up for our community, and I know the larger community around us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll just add really quickly. I also in support of the resolution. And one thing that was really important for me was getting voices from the outside, those who work at Sanford as well too, and their experience. And so I have friends who are in places as well too, to talk about their experience of being at Sanford as doctors, as nurses, as those who work there. And the one thing that really stuck out, and I think it was a part of the conversation that was continued, is ensuring that the high level of care is there. And that is one thing that they shared a story with me about an individual and the amount of work that Sanford did to ensure that person got the medical needs met, which I think is something that we highly value here in Robbinsdale as well too. So knowing that this is, I think, a really great opportunity to continue to talk about serving our community, but also serving those beyond. So greatly appreciate the dialogue and the conversations and the hard questions. And I know this is not something that is lightly done, but the investment in our community as well as beyond will continue to impact us from here on in years to come. So greatly appreciate that. With that, is there anything that you all would like to say before we turn it over to Tim?
Good evening. I'm Bjorn Gunnerud. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for North Memorial Health. Trevor sends his regrets, but very much enjoyed the work session last week. Bet Zerwas, our lead with policy and government relations, joined for that, and also joined by Dr. Carolyn Oglin, who is our President and Chief Medical Officer. Really appreciate the discussion, the collaboration that we've felt since coming here. I think, if anything, your point, we don't take this lightly. We also view this as very much a beginning of a next chapter, and the commitments, the conversation that we've had here, the conversations that we've had with community members at the 2 public hearings, like, it really is a starting point for continuing to think about where and what next. And look forward to being more of a present face at these city council meetings versus sort of when asked. And I think we generally feel just one of the comments that was made, and I forget if that was your comment, Councilmember Greenberg, or Mayor Sutton's, but just North is integral to the fabric of Robbinsdale. And that too we don't take lightly. But I think every one of these conversations with community members coming forward and talking about the great work that's happening here, I think we also feel an obligation and a commitment to figure out what else can we do. And together with Sanford, I think there are certainly possibilities. I appreciate your comments about public funding, because I do agree, and I think you've heard that from Trevor as well. The need for public funding will continue. So Commissioner Lundy has been a great supporter and advocate for our mission as well. And I think there are a lot of things that we can continue to discuss collaboratively with Hennepin Health and HCMC, and certainly look forward to those discussions in the future as well. But thanks to all of you first and foremost for the discussion and your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Council, do we have a motion to support this resolution with Sanford Health and North Memorial?
Sure, I can make a resolution. So I'll make a resolution to consider the attached resolution stating support for the Sanford Health and North Memorial Health Definitive Agreement to come together as one single nonprofit health system.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no or nay. Resolution passes. Thank you, truly. All right. Moving on to other business, voucher request pending approval for disbursement.
I will make a motion to approve the voucher requests.
I'll second. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no or nay. All right. As Mayor Sutton would say, bills are paid. There we go. Moving on to administrative reports.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I've got 2 updates for tonight. One is just a reminder that early voting starts here at City Hall on Friday, July 24th. We open at 8 a.m. and it goes till 4:30, and then will be available every day up until the day before election. Not weekends, so weekdays. There is additional voting on the Saturday before, though, from 9 until 3. So you can come to City Hall and vote early if you're a Robbinsdale resident. And then my other update is just that because of National Night Out on August 4th, our council meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 3rd. So just prepare for that a day early. And those are my updates.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. A few things for you. I want to start by, since this is our first council meeting since, offer big thanks to all who helped out with Whiz Bang Days. Kind of going chronologically, first ever Commissioner Committee Member Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, something we sort of did in-house. I thought a successful event. Kick off the week for staff and the electeds, as well as all the volunteers. Again, commissioners, committee members volunteer their time throughout the year. Fun to come together with not specific causes to sustainability or planning or parks, rather the shared interest in serving the community. So I thought that was a fun way to kick off. Also share all my thanks to the Lions, a number of businesses, community members, nonprofits, all step up in their own ways, some throughout the weekend, some for specific events. And then also sharing all my thanks to city staff. So we dedicate city staff that continues to participate year-round in the committee planning. Actually hosted their wrap-up meeting there last night, and then soon thereafter we'll start talking about next year. And of course, public safety, public works throughout the weekend available for all things. That some things we plan, some things pop up. So again, just sharing thanks out to all of those groups. Looking for communications upcoming, one of the things I want to call out, council during recent discussions has really pushed for getting the community more engaged in the budget process, especially sharing out the timeline and what expectations might look like. So keep a watch for that in the Birdtown Brief and upcoming social media opportunities to engage as we share out things we're looking at by way of priorities looking into 2027. We'll continue to push for the new Bridge 911 RPD app. This is the communications tool that is replacing the outgoing piece. We are we're not the initial, but we are part of a pilot group of taking this on. So I know there's some folks have had some issues getting fully logged in and establishing an account, but we're excited for us. It'll give us a more robust set of pieces to that platform where we're looking for more engagement. So not just an outgoing, but an engagement tool. We'll share out some upcoming events. Music in the Park, next event would be the 30th of July. Wet and Wild Water Fun Day, July 31st. Trying something new with a regional group, a baby gear swap at LVT. This is under the sustainability lens. Certainly those excited with a newborn that might be looking for some items that are gently used rather than ending up in the landfill. On August 8th down at LVT, we'll be hosting that. Look forward to that first time event. And that's the same day as the Public Safety Open House. So again, August 8th, later in the day, if you want to come up, a great way to engage with our public safety professionals. And then the next movie in the park is August 21st.
Thank you. That was very thorough. Very, very thorough. Thank you. Okay, with that, do we have any council general communications or updates? Not tonight.
I guess the only thing I'll say is just I've been doing some chat with the council member session. So we did one in June, we did one last night, and then there'll be one in August. In September, I'll probably try to keep it going, but me and someone from staff, as well as inviting another council member. So come on out. It's great to chat. It's a little bit more of an informal way to get questions answered, or just if you want to talk about Robbinsdale or anything else, I'll try to be available.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I'll just briefly say, I know we have National Night Out coming up as well too, so this continues to say hi to your neighbors, be mindful about what that means to show up and be present. For those who can't make that, like I said, just make sure you're trying to communicate. This knows in your neighborhood. I think earlier this evening, we talked about need in our community, and you don't know what people need if you're not talking to people or checking in on them. So check on your neighbors, check on people, really important, and greatly appreciate the work that's already currently being done in our community to make sure that's happening. So with that, say hi to your neighbors, and I think we can adjourn the meeting, or has somebody else?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no or nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
New kicks, huh?